Hey there friends, it's Elizabeth here from the Everyday Storyteller, and I am back with story number 2 in my fall album. So for this album, I am using a roughly 4x6 traveler's notebook. I've already taken out the staples so I can add extra pages like this transparency page that I am currently folding, and you can already see that I have cut out the hexagons that I'm going to be using as the basis of this spread. So I did this by creating a hexagon Photoshop template in Photoshop, but you can also use this same idea and accomplish the same thing by using a hexagon punch if you have one of those in your stash. I do have the Photoshop template available for my newsletter subscribers. I will have the link to that down below, but pretty much I just created hexagons out of all of my photos as well as some pattern paper, and I am now trying to recreate the pattern that I did over on Photoshop here on my piece of paper. The phone that I am using as kind of my reference photo is a little bit off camera because it was messing with my filming camera, but I have a photo of my Photoshop template on the side there that I'm kind of going with. And I have included both the individual hexagons as a Photoshop template as well as the entire pattern that I created, which you will see how I use that on the back side of this layout. This spread is all about our apple picking adventures in early October, and as you can see, I have a lot of photos. That's one of the reasons why I decided to go with using a hexagon pattern so that I could fit a lot of different photos on one spread. Hexagons are kind of my favorite. I've used them in various other projects before, and they always give this little added oomph to a layout. I love the shape of it, and to me they're kind of a little bit more fun than circles or something like that because you can make so many different patterns with them, and I really love how this one ended up turning out. So I use some patterns from the Ali Edwards Stories by the Month kit for October. I have a couple of different October Stories by the Month kits from various different years, so I just took some of the patterns that were included in those and made hexagons out of them. So that's what I'm doing right now. I am using my regular double-sided sticky tape instead of my Tombow Mono glue adhesive, just because since I am doing it on transparency and it's going to live outside of any type of page protector and not really have any protection, I wanted to make sure that everything was really glued down quite well. So that's why I use the double-sided adhesive. And as you can see, I'm just finishing the very bottom up with a couple of odds and ends of pattern paper and photos that I hadn't used yet. I am also going to switch out a couple of the patterns. I believe I switch out the very top one, and yeah, the one that I'm working on right now, I end up switching to the plaid background just because I wanted to add a little bit more of that color to this spread since I was working with a lot of the green photos. And there is a look at what the layout finally looks like. And since that side of this layout was so busy, I decided to go really simple on the right side and add just a simple black and white photo of my daughter and I. I'm using double-sided sticky tape again to adhere that down, and I'm also going to add a chipboard piece. Yes, this heart chipboard piece that says Love October, also from the Stories by the Month kit. And to adhere that down, I'm just going to take off some of the backing because I'm really working on making this traveler's notebook be a little bit less chunky. So I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive to the back of that and then add that to my photo, and that part of the spread is finished. Before I start working on the opposite side of my transparency, I'm going to add one of these tabs. This one has an October pattern all over it that matches that card that you can kind of see in the left-hand corner. And I am just simply folding it over and then adding double-sided sticky tape to adhere that onto the page. That page is actually going to get covered up by my journaling, so I'm not worried that it kind of looks a little bit funky. So here I am working on the opposite side of my hexagon pattern, and I am using this photo of pumpkins. So this is a photo that I added as a clipping mask to my hexagon pattern. As I said, I had used my Photoshop reference photo to lay down the hexagons on the other side of the transparency so that I could then print one photo and have it all match up over on this side. So I have included both sides or both types of Photoshop files as a free download for my newsletter subscribers, and I will have that linked. So right now I am just cutting out each part of my photo and adhering that down onto the opposite side of my transparency, trying really hard to make sure that they kind of all line up. And through movie magic, there is that side of my transparency almost finished. So as you can probably see, my layout is not completely perfect, and that's all right. Some of the spacing is a little bit wonky, and you can see that a little bit more here on that photo of the pumpkins, but to be honest, I'm fine with it. So now I'm going to take you over to my desk and talk to you a little bit about how I'm adding journaling to this layout. All right, so I've gone ahead and printed my journaling for our apple picking adventure. So the way that I do this is, I'm gonna take this apart for a second. So the way that I do this is I set up a journaling box in Photoshop. I add my journaling. I don't even think you can see, maybe a little bit. Can you see the shadow of the box around that? So I print the box very, very lightly, just so that I can see as a guide to lay my journaling card down. And then I will use either some of my Tombow Mono adhesive on the back of the paper that I want to print on, or in a lot of cases I use washi tape on the top and bottom. I actually probably should have used some on the side because I don't know if you can see the black from the ink of my printer, but it kind of caught on the edge. But it printed fine, so that is what counts. I'm definitely going to have to be careful with this black though, because it's probably going to try to go everywhere. But that is how I print on the Traveler's Notebook paper. And you can also use the same method for printing on like pocket page cards and things like that. You pretty much just set up a template for yourself in Photoshop, and then you use washi or some adhesive to add what you want to print on top of your template, and then run it through the printer again. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out and adhere it into my album. All right, so my original idea was to stamp on this page, but I decided I didn't like that, so I went back to my computer and I used the digital stamp that said One Little October Story, and I added that onto my canvas and reprinted everything, and I like it a lot better. I think I gave myself enough room to add a sentiment to the bottom. I was thinking maybe this, more pumpkins please. That's kind of cute since it's about pumpkin picking and apple picking, but we'll see. All right, so I'm going through that same process where I am cutting down the full Traveler's Notebook page into my 4x6. I do leave the top and the bottom uncut for a little bit just because I wasn't sure if I was going to add anything to the top. But once everything is cut, I am going to adhere that chipboard piece that says More Pumpkins Please, and I am using some liquid adhesive by Tombow. I will have that also linked down below to adhere that down, just because it's a little bit easier than trying to add my double-sided sticky tape to that small of a chipboard. I'm going to add that right below the story, and I'm going to call this layout complete. So I am really excited about how this project is turning out, and I hope you will join me next week for more October fall projects. Thanks so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye.